Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Tuesday, January 27, 2026.
Hello.
And today, we are doing something a little different. We're not just reacting to the morning's news. We're going back to a scar.
That's a good way to put it.
If you look at the map of the Himalayas, specifically Ladakh, something fundamental shifted just a few months ago. And I don't think the rest of the country has fully grasped the magnitude of it yet.
It really did. Usually when we talk about Ladakh, we're talking about high-altitude trekking, meditation retreats, that kind of thing.
The poster child for peaceful integration.
Exactly. But on September 24, 2025, that silence didn't just break, it shattered.
We're talking about the day the locals are now calling the Black Day.
Or the bloodiest day in Ladakhi history.
Yeah. And the irony of this date, September 24, is just so heavy. It's almost cinematic in the worst possible way.
It really is.
This day was supposed to be the grand finale, the closing ceremony of the Ladakh Festival 2025.
It was pitched as this huge celebration of culture, tourism, harmony.
But instead of fireworks and folk dances, you had government buildings, the chief executive counselor's office, the BJP headquarters, literally in flames.
You had live ammunition used on protesters. And fatalities. We have to be clear about that cost. 4 young men dead.
Exactly. So our mission today is to do an anatomy of this breakdown. We aren't just going to recount the violence.
No, we need to understand the mechanics of it.
We've got a stack of sources here, police FIRs, legal filings from the Bar Association, and notes from the Justice B.S. Chauhan Commission that's sitting right now. We want to answer a question. How does a region known for being so pro-India spiral into burning government offices overnight?
And what does that fallout look like now in January 2026? Because you have to peel back the layers of what happened on the ground versus what was happening in people's hearts. Those are 2 very different timelines that just collided.
Let's start with the ground reality. Take us back to September 24, 2025. There was protest planned. The lay apex body, or LA, and student groups had organized it.
Right. The demands were the usual ones: statehood for Ladakh and inclusion in the 6th schedule.
So why did this specific Tuesday turn into a war zone?
It was the escalation. The reports indicate this wasn't just a march, it became a siege. You had thousands on the streets of Leh.
And the police were overwhelmed.
That's their claim. The narrative from the Ministry of Home Affairs and the MHA is very specific. They call it an instigated mob. They point to the fact that the crowd didn't just chant slogans. They targeted symbols of power.
When you say targeted, you mean the arson. It wasn't random.
No, not at all. It was highly specific. First, they torched the local BJP office. Then they went for the chief executive counselor's office, the CEC. A police vehicle was set on fire.
So the MHA's argument is what? We were surrounded.
Essentially, yes. Buildings were burning. We feared for our lives. They claim the firing was a last resort, an act of self-defense to prevent a lynching.
Okay, that's the official line. But let's play the other side. Because if you read the statements from the lay apex body, from the eyewitnesses, it's a completely different story.
Diametrically opposed. They're saying the police skipped the entire escalation of force ladder.
Which is standard procedure, right?
It's SOP. You start with warnings, water cannons, tear gas, then lethal charges, then rubber bullets. Live rounds are the absolute last resort for an imminent threat to life.
And the activists claim?
They claim the police went straight to live fire, no tear gas, no warning shots, just bullets.
Which resulted in 4 deaths and almost 90 injuries. And that 90 number, it includes police personnel too, right? So it was a brawl.
It was a melee, for sure. But here's the nuance that gets lost. The protesters argue that the arson, the burning of the buildings, was done by a splinter group.
And that the leadership was trying to stop them?
That's the claim. That they were trying to contain the vandalism, but the police response was just collective punishment. They see those 4 deceased boys not as rioters, but as martyrs.
It's the classic fog of war scenario.
Yeah.
But things don't just explode like that in a vacuum. You don't go from peaceful Ladakh to burning down the CEC's office without a catalyst. What was the spark?
To understand the explosion, you have to look at the pressure cooker.
Sonon Wangchuk.
Exactly, the face of the movement. He'd been on an indefinite hunger strike since September 10th.
So 2 full weeks of fasting? Tensions are already simmering?
People are watching him get weaker every single day. But the emotional trigger, the thing that really snapped public patience, happened the night before, on September 23rd.
What happened?
2 other activists, Serang Angchuk, who was 72, and Tashi Dolma, who was 60, They collapsed.
They were fasting too.
Yes, alongside Wangchuk. They were rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Now, you have to think about the cultural context here. In Ladakh, respect for elders isn't just polite.
It's everything. It's the bedrock of the social hierarchy.
It is paramount. So watching these elders essentially starve themselves into the ICU while New Delhi remained completely silent, it wasn't just seen as political negligence, it was a profound cultural insult.
The youth felt humiliated.
They felt their elders were being, and this is their phrase, left to die.
And this is where that festival irony comes back in, isn't it? This is what makes it so visceral.
It's the festival factor. I mean, imagine the split screen. On one side, you have a 70-year-old in the ICU starving for constitutional rights.
On the other side, just a few blocks away,
The administration is blasting music, hosting dances, celebrating the Ladakh festival to show tourists how happy everyone is.
it's unbelievably tone-deaf. It's like throwing a party in your living room while your grandfather is dying in the next room.
That is the perfect analogy. And that disconnect is what directed the violence. Remember the targets. Why burn the CEC's office?
Yeah, because the Hill Council is the local administration that's hosting that festival.
Exactly. And why burn the BJP office? Because it represents the central government that wouldn't even send someone to talk to the fasting elders.
It connects the dots. The violence wasn't random. It was symbolic. It was an attack on the silence and the celebration.
Precisely. They were screaming, "How can you celebrate while our elders are dying?"
Okay, so the Black Day happens. The smoke clears on September 25th.
Yeah.
Usually in these situations, a government tries to de-escalate, right? Call for talks, form a committee.
Lower the temperature.
What did the administration in Ladakh do?
They went the other way. Completely. They initiated what I call the capillary strategy.
Capillary strategy. That sounds medical and a bit ominous.
Well, it's a method of strangulation. If you view a movement as a body, the blood flows through the capillaries. In Ladakh, the logistical capillaries are the gobas, the village headmen.
These aren't just ceremonial figures.
No, not at all. The gobas are the operational nodes. They organize the trucks, they arrange the food, they mobilize the villagers. The administration realized that if you arrest the main leaders in Leh, new leaders pop up.
But if you arrest the Govas,
You paralyze the logistics, you break the supply chain. They started picking them up one by one. It severed the link between the leadership in Leh and the remote villages. It was a very sophisticated tactical move.
and they use preventive arrests, too, to stop a planned march to Delhi.
Exactly. Depleted the manpower before it could even organize. But they didn't stop at logistics.
I'm looking at the notes here about Sekmal, Sonam Wangchuk's organization.
Right, financial strangulation. On September 25, the very next day, the government canceled Sekmal's FCRA license.
And for the listener, FCRA is the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. It lets NGOs receive foreign funding. Canceling it is basically a death sentence for a nonprofit.
And the timing was unmistakable. It was seen as vindictive. The message was, you challenge us, we cut off your lifeline.
But the most chilling tool, from what I've read, was the career threat.
This is something we're seeing more and more, weaponizing the background check.
And it's incredibly effective in a place like Ladakh, where government jobs are the holy grail.
The police started booking students, civil service aspirants, anyone young. They made it clear to every parent, if your kid is seen at a protest, their police verification will be flagged adverse.
Which means no passport, no government job, game over.
It terrified people. It silenced the streets faster than any tear gas could. They also created a digital vacuum targeting vloggers and influencers who were posting footage that contradicted the official narrative.
So you have the leadership cut off, the funding cut off, the logistics broken, the information controlled, and the youth terrified for their futures. The movement should have just crumbled.
It should have. But there was one group the administration miscalculated on.
The lawyers.
The Bar Association of Leh and Kargil. They stepped right into that vacuum. And this is where the story shifts from a riot to a resistance.
Oh, so.
They declared they would represent every single arrested person pro bono.
Free of charge.
Free! They viewed it as a nationalist duty. They moved mass bail applications. Out of the first 39 people arrested, they got 38 out on bail within 2 weeks. They were working around the clock.
So they were playing goalie against the entire state machinery.
And they went on the offensive, too. The government tried to pull a fast one. They set up a magisterial inquiry.
Which is basically the administration investigating itself, right? A whitewash.
Exactly. The Bar Association said, absolutely not. They rejected it. They went on strike, suspended all judicial work, and essentially paralyzed the courts until the government folded.
And they actually won that stare down.
They did. That victory is the reason we have the Justice B.S. Chauhan Commission today.
So let's pivot to the present. January 2026. This commission, headed by a retired Supreme Court judge, is sitting right now. Is this just another bureaucratic exercise, or are we actually learning something new?
Oh, we are learning things. There's a bombshell that has come out of the hearings. The lawyers are calling it the missing order.
Okay, that sounds like a legal thriller. What is the missing order?
It gets a bit technical, but bear with me. Under the new criminal code, the BNSS, police can't just open fire on a crowd.
Right.
Section 129 requires a specific procedure. You need an executive magistrate on the ground to issue a written order to fire.
Unless it's immediate self-defense.
Correct. But the lawyers for the victims are arguing that no such written order exists. They've cross-examined the officials. The paper trail is missing.
Wait, if there's no order, then legally, what does that mean?
Legally, it implies the police acted unilaterally and illegally. The lawyers are arguing this wasn't crowd control, it was unauthorized lethal force.
That creates a massive liability for the administration.
Huge. But the police have a defense, of course.
Preaching.
Imminent threat. They testified that the CEC secretariat was about to be overrun, that there was a risk of lynching. They're arguing that in the heat of the moment, you don't have time to write a permission slip.
So it's the letter of the law versus the chaos on the ground.
Exactly. And the commission is stuck right now waiting for forensics. Ballistic reports. They need to know, was the firing aimed at the legs to disperse, or was it aimed at the chest and head to kill?
That distinction changes the legal liability from excessive force to murder.
That is a massive distinction, and we're expecting that report around March or April, but, even if the report comes out and vindicates the victims, I wonder if it matters for the bigger picture.
What do you mean?
You can pay compensation. The bar is demanding 1 crore rupees for the families. You might even punish a few officers, but you can't unburn the bridge. The psychological damage, it feels permanent.
You're talking about the relationship with the center.
Yes. The analyses on the ground sentiment show a palpable shift. Before September 24, the stance was, we are petitioners requesting our rights. Now, it's, we are adversaries demanding justice.
The trust is just gone.
There was one incident that really drove the final nail in that coffin. We're calling it the funeral insult.
I missed this in the initial reports. What happened?
So Tashi Gileson is the chief executive counselor. Remember, he is a BJP leader. He's the elected head of the Hill Council. He wanted to go to the funerals of the 4 boys who were killed.
To pay his respects. Seems like basic, decent politics.
The lieutenant governor's administration denied him permission.
Wait. The appointed bureaucrat told the elected leader he couldn't go to a funeral.
Yes. And just think about the optics of that. It proved the very thing the protesters had been screaming about for years.
That the elected Hill Council is a sham. That it has no real power.
If the CEC, a member of the ruling party, can't even go to a funeral without the LG's permission, what's the point of the council? It just strips away the veneer completely.
And tells people, your votes don't matter.
Exactly. And the result is radicalization. The older generation in Ladakh has historically been incredibly proud of being Indian, very distinct from any separatist sentiment. But now, even they feel alienated. And the Gen Z youth.
They're using words like occupiers.
Which is a dangerous shift. It is. When you burn the BJP office, you're not just burning bricks, you're burning the hope that the promises made in 2019, when Ladakh became a union territory, would ever be kept.
So let's zoom out. We're here in January 2026. The capillaries of the movement have been cut. The lawyers are fighting a technical battle, and the youth are radicalized but silent. It feels like a stalemate.
It is a pressure cooker with the valve welded shut. The government thinks silence is peace, but silence is often just holding your breath.
It leaves us with a haunting question for you, the listener. We often think of law and order as stopping violence. But when a government tries to project an image of normalcy hosting a festival while people are starving, does that act of forced normalcy actually quell dissent? Or does the hypocrisy of it inevitably spark the very violence it's trying to hide?
And once you've alienated the most pro-integration region in your country, what does the road back even look like? I'm not sure anyone in New Delhi has the map for that yet.
That is the question Ladakh will be living with for a long time. We'll be watching for the Chauhan report in the spring. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.